Hey everybody, welcome to What the Tech. I'm Majors here, and of course I'm joined by Paul Thurrott from Thurrott.com. How you doing, Paul?
Pretty good.
Pretty good. I know you had a hectic couple of minutes right before we were starting the show.
I do this a lot lately. I don't know what's going on.
What happened?
I don't know. I got to write a news story every day. Oftentimes I get up in the morning and there's all this stuff to do on my own site, and so I start getting involved with that, and then some days I just forget.
And listen, it happens. It happens to the best of us. We have a lot to talk about, but before we get into it, I want to tell everybody, go to Thurrott.com, Paul Thurrott's new site. A new site for all things Paul Thurrott, Thurrott.com. They have a great, I mean, every day you're putting posts up. Every day you're doing some cool stuff like the Throwback Thursdays, which I'm a big fan of. We're going to do a Throwback Tuesday here on the show. We're going to take a... Okay. We're just going to copy what Paul's doing on the site. But he also has a great newsletter where every day you get email updates of, I guess, the top news stories and everything happening on the website. So Thurrott.com, I want to give a little plug to the website before we dive into anything. Because a lot of the stuff that we talk about, guys, is from Thurrott.com. I cheat, Paul. I just go to your website. Wonder. I just go to your website first.
Sure.
Did you have any other names before you came up with Thurrott.com?
No, none that were serious.
Nothing that was serious.
It's hard. Obviously in 2015, it's hard to come up with the, tech news website name. They're all taken.
Yeah.
So
almost every single one is. What the Tech is taken.
Sure.
And we use, it's like a different site that we use for a redirect.
Yep.
So you got the Surface 3. You wrote a blog post about it. You wrote a review of it. I had a couple.
Preview.
Preview. So how do you like it? Is it your daily driver yet or no?
No. I mean, I obviously for the show and when I sit here at the desk, I use my desktop computer, which is a powerful tower with lots of RAM and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, I've been using it around the house, and I haven't done any formal tests. I'm actually going to do some benchmarking on this one. I've never done that, and I've sort of resisted doing that. But the reason I want to do it with this machine in particular is because so many people are interested in whether this could be used, full time, unlike, say, a Surface RT device, which for the most part couldn't be used full time. So we'll see how that goes. I mean, my quickie takeaway is that it's a Surface Pro 3, but smaller, cost reduced in some ways. The kickstand is nice. The quality of the machine is nice. The type cover is nice. The pen works exactly like it does on Surface Pro 3. The performance seems pretty good so far. The only issue I've had with it is iTunes, which was so bad.
Yeah, but
unresponsive.
That's everybody.
Yeah, I actually ran it on my desktop just to kind of, familiarize myself with how this piece of crap works. And it's terrible everywhere. So, it was unusable last night. I don't know what was going on there, but
it's a rarity for me to use iTunes on Windows. But I installed it on this Lenovo that I have right here because when we play out music during like breaks or something, we play it out through this Lenovo because it's connected through the IP audio and there's no Mac support, and it's unbearable. I mean, it's awful.
It's such a terrible...
It really is. I've gotten a Spotify, and I just use Spotify now for everything on this computer. On the Mac, on the other hand, it's great. No problems.
I understand why people would stick within the Apple ecosystem for media, and I certainly have spent a lot of money on movies and music, which works anywhere, I guess. Through iTunes. But man, and I don't mind. We sometimes use the Apple TV. We actually use the Roku a lot more than Apple TV, but Apple TV works fine. It's not good. So I don't know. But remember with this machine, I mean, the big point of this is you can load these apps. I put Photoshop in here, which I think is a little unusual for this kind of machine. Chrome, which is a notorious resource and battery life hog. iTunes, which is unbearable. In fact, I should try that one again. I'm unclear why it was so terrible. But, I put full Office on there from Office 365. That works great. And I've spent time with it. I only got it yesterday, so I had the thing running all last night. The battery lasted all day yesterday.
But the person that's buying this is not going to have these performance issues, that some of us may have.
Well, I'm specifically trying to understand what the limits are here. So it's a real PC. It can be had with 2 or 4 gigabytes of RAM. I would say if you're, some of the questions here, would this be good for a student? Would this be good for someone who doesn't spend all day? For someone like me, I could never use this machine day to day. For one thing, I'm a huge ape of a man, and it's just too small. But
you know what?
But it's just not.
Here's a good benchmark.
It's not for me.
Try to do a Google Hangout with HD video.
Okay.
Because,
by the way, very anecdotal, but I threw the camera app on, and it kind of goes out the back by default. And because of if you think about the tent-like nature of this thing, because you kind of tilt it back, and then you have the kickstand holding it up, so the camera will be looking down, basically, which it is. It's not, it's not angled inside the device to look, straight forward. So you kind of have to hold the thing and tilt it up to see the view right in front of you. And so I think people who are sitting in a classroom, unless you happen to be above the teacher, as you might be in a college situation, aren't going to sit there and record the entire, not show, but class. But the quality of that camera was actually really good. I took a couple still frames. The front-facing one, yeah. No, I'm sorry. This is the rear-facing one.
The rear, okay.
I just took a couple pictures around the. I kind of moved around the house and just took a couple of shots. And I was kind of looking at them later, and I thought, these are pretty clear. They're not bad. I don't want to see people holding a Surface out in the world taking pictures in Paris or something.
It's going to happen.
Yeah, it's not bad.
And your head's going to explode when it does.
Yeah, it's really versatile. On day one, there's a dock, there's a keyboard, there's a pen. Those 3 things right there are what segregate this from an iPad, Now, on the flip side, of course, the iPad has the ecosystem. It's got the apps. It's a pure tablet. It's a pure consumption device. That's what the iPad has over Surface. But this is it's an interesting.
How's the type pad? The type cover.
It's very similar to the one for Surface Pro 3. They changed some of the keys on the top. It's a little smaller to match the size of the device. But it looks and works very similarly.
Yeah, it looks like a great little device. But you're right. Will this be enough for most people?
Well, and most people. I don't know what that means. I guess what I would say is this will be good for certain audiences, I think.
I guess let's talk about the basic functionality that an everyday person would do. They may do Skype video, right? Mm-hmm. They're going to do browsing. YouTube videos. They're going to want to watch high-def videos. Facebook, email, maybe a Google Hangout. These are the basic tasks.
I've not tried Google Hangouts, and I've not tried Skype, and I will need to do that. Like you and I should talk on Skype sometime on video and make sure that works.
Because I'll tell you something, I'm having a tremendous difficulty with Google Hangouts, and this is something that slowly happened on this Mac. Listen, it's a 2011, and these things tend to get slower as software evolves and things happen. But I can't do a high-def Google Hangout anymore. Because the CPU is maxing out.
You have a MacBook Pro, right?
I have an i7 MacBook Pro, yeah. I can't, it's so difficult at this point where the CPU, it's going full blast and the fan is going full blast where I just turned off the video. I haven't done a video hangout in a while.
And did you buy that thing new?
Yeah, brand new.
Yeah, I would say 4 years in, maybe it's time to think about a...
Yeah. I also had that beer incident happen where I spilled, beer all over this thing and I revived it, and I've also dropped it twice.
Yeah. This is not a MacBook Pro class machine. It's not a ThinkPad X1, Carbon X1 replacement. It's not like that. Microsoft now has a very logical step up the Surface path. And so the low-end Surface, 2 gigs of RAM, 64 gigs of storage, probably be okay for a kid, probably be okay for someone who, works all day on a different computer, comes home at night and wants to browse the web while they're watching TV or email, Facebook, like you said, is that kind of thing. I've got people asking me, could I run Visual Studio on this? Could I run Hyper-V on this? Could I run full-blown Photoshop or, the Adobe Cloud, whatever that's called?
You can, but it's not going to be great.
You could. I think so. I think for anyone who's, will this last through 4 years of college for a kid? That's a tough one. I have to be honest, because a 4 gig version of this, 128 gig SSD, a couple of years, I think will be fine. Is it good enough for 4 years? There's no way to predict that, but I mean, I think when I think Atom processor, non-upgradable system like this, it's kind of a tough call. So if you were to hand a MacBook Air, an X1 Carbon, or a machine of that class to a kid going into college right now, I'd say, yeah, that could probably get them through the.
Okay, well, here's a good question: will a MacBook, the new MacBook, survive 4 years of college?
No, absolutely not. Nope.
No, it's the same exact situation. I mean, they're both slower chips.
No, I mean, we'll see. See, I need to figure out what the real world battery life of this thing. 10 hours of video is not 10 hours of real world battery life, but. As far as the student goes, I mean, I think the reason people are thinking like this is it has the pen, or you can get the pen, and it's full capability pen. It's not a capacitive pen. It's not a stylus hitting a screen kind of pen. It's the real deal. It's nice, pressure sensitivity, lots of nice handwriting capabilities. It's good for that. I guess what I would say is, for a device that's under $1,000, get them this for the first 2 years of college, and then halfway through college, or 3 years into college, maybe then you think of getting whatever is the next thing down the road. I mean, the alternative would be to buy a Surface Pro 3 today, or maybe we wait for Surface Pro 4. And I think that machine would get you all the way through college, but it's going to cost you almost twice as much money. So, I guess you can kind of figure it out that, how you want to spend money. I think trying to maybe over push this thing is missing the point. Yeah. I think the more exciting thing about this is that on a device that's under $1,000, well under $1,000 really, you get that much stuff. When it's not so much like, how does this compare to an iPad? How much iPad do you get for the same amount of money? Although I would, real keyboard, real PC software, real pen is exciting for students. And to me, this is the neat market. It's like, Dad brings the Surface Pro 3 to work, and Junior brings the Surface 3 to school. Yeah, or uses it at home.
Let's talk about this pen, Paul. Mm-hmm. I've heard nothing but unbelievable stuff about it.
Are you heading toward the Surface Loop? Were you privy to this conversation yesterday?
Why? What happened yesterday?
So there was a kind of a crazy back and forth on Twitter. The pen, how do I explain this in a way that won't bore everyone to tears? If you buy a Surface Pro 3, it comes with the pen.
Is it the same pen?
Yes, it's exactly the same pen.
So why... Before you go into that conversation, why is this pen getting rave reviews?
It's the same pen.
I know. But
you mean compared to other pens?
No. Compared to the Surface Pro pen. I mean, all these reviews that I've read about this. I'm thinking the people that reviewed the Surface Pro 3, or they never reviewed the Surface Pro 3 and had no idea what was happening with this pen.
That could be.
Now they discovered this pen. It was like the Windows Phone update from a couple of years ago, where all these people came out and said, how amazing Windows Phone is, but there was no changes.
Wow, an iPhone user checks out a Windows Phone and is surprised he really likes it. Yeah, it is a surprise. Thanks for waiting 5 years to try it.
So what was the conversation with the pen?
Well, so it's just so weird and such a small little world. But if you buy a Surface Pro 3, you get this pen, the pen you're looking at right now on the screen. You get that with the tablet. It comes in the box. If you buy a Surface Pro 3 type cover, you get a little flappy thing called, I'll show it to you, called a Surface Pen Loop. And the Surface Pen Loop lets you attach the pen to the back of the keyboard. It's this little divot, little thing here. And it lets you, it's a little loop, right? It lets you, kind of bring the pen with you when you travel. So Surface 3 doesn't come with the pen. You have to buy it separately. And so when I unboxed this stuff yesterday, and when all the other reviewers unboxed it, what we noticed was we got the retail packaging for everything except for the pen. The pen came in like a little bag. And when you unbox the type cover for Surface 3, the new one, there was no loop in there, right? So when I wrote it up, I had a question. It was like, well, either you just don't get one. You have to buy it separately. By the way, it's a $5 part. You can buy them in multiple colors from the Microsoft store. Or maybe it will come with the pen. because we didn't see the retail packaging, and maybe that's the point. And as it turns out, that is the point. And so going forward, you will get a Surface, this $5 part. Surface Pen Loop will come in the box with Surface Pen, right? I'm already spending too much time for this topic because it's like so stupid. But the reason this is the reason this is relevant, I guess, because it's not really interesting, is that this was like the biggest argument on Twitter between people who were freaking out because they just pre-ordered Surface 3 and they want to make sure they get a Surface Loop or Pen Loop, and they don't know where you say it's going to be here and the store says it's not, and how do we know? Anyway, the long story short is the loop will be included in the box with a pen. You're going to get one for free.
Well, thank God for that.
I know. And I guess what I would say to you is if this is important to you for some reason, or if you think there's any chance that loop's going to detach from the keyboard, which a lot of people say it does. Mine has been sitting there fine for the entire time. Buy one. It's $5.
Wait, it's like a little magnetic loop. It just attaches,
yeah.
or okay.
No, it's not magnetic. It's just made out of a material. Oh, I'm sorry. How does it attach?
Yeah.
It's how does it attach? It's
Silly
an
putty?
adhesive. I don't remember. See, this is the problem. Remember I told you, well, Surface 3, we got like the retail box. When they gave us Surface Pro 3 to review,
it's a promo.
We didn't get it. It didn't come in a box.
Yeah.
They already put it all together. And I actually said something to them. I said, I don't like to get it like this. I want to see what people see when they buy it. I mean, that's part of the evaluation process. So I don't actually know how this was I've never seen it. I don't know. I assume it's an adhesive. It looks like adhesive.
Okay. I see the reason why I think the pen is and I was thinking about this. I was thinking about this morning, and I messaged you, and you posted a picture on your website on Thurrott.com, during the review, and it was like a stock photo of the Surface, what Microsoft is supplying, and it just reminded me of that Courier.
Oh yeah.
Right, like. It had the split screen view, had two separate applications.
You have them handy?
Yeah, I got to find it. It's on
actually the way you showed it to me was pretty effective because you had, the Courier picture, and then you had a picture that Microsoft had supplied.
Yeah, I'm going to, I don't even know my own Twitter, and I'm typing with one hand. It's very difficult to do on this computer. And of course, Twitter's not loading for me. There it is. Hold on. So I just saw the picture and I was looking at your site and I'm going, oh my God, this looks exactly.
I've seen this before.
I've seen this before. Here it is.
Yeah.
I mean, look, that's the exact concept. Has the pen in the hand and one side, that's exactly what this concept was. Obviously, it doesn't fold, but
it doesn't fold. Yeah, and I guess technically the Courier would have been 2 screens, and there would have been some. I think part of the point. In fact, they're doing it there. You can't really tell it, but. Part of the point of this design was that you'd be able to drag and drop across the screens.
Yeah.
Which
you can. I mean, if you technically you could copy and paste from one application to the other, but obviously we were talking about this, and the Courier was a pipe dream, and it was never an existing device, and it was just this concept, but this is what it turned into 6-7 years later.
It's hard not to think that whoever came up with that snap feature in Windows 8
may have been involved with
didn't
this.
do it as as at least as inspired by it.
Yeah, it's interesting, and by the marketing of this, they're kind of going after the same person, right? They're not saying, well, when you're looking at this, they're not showing a gamer, they're not showing mom and dad, Facebook, and they're showing work happening.
Yeah. Well, listen, I have very specific needs when it comes to a PC, and especially a travel PC. I'm a bigger guy, and I need a bigger screen, bigger keyboard, that kind of thing. But the thought of traveling with just this thing, right, is almost giddy. I mean, the excitement of that, because I often have to carry this big backpack with a bunch of junk in it, and you kind of lug it around like a caveman or whatever. And, the ability to pick up, like Surface Pro 3, which is, even smaller than the Surface Pro 3. And this thing, which is just so, incredibly light and thin. And by the way, I put my little...
more stickers, more mocking. You know what, Paul? Send it to me, and I'll put it over the Apple logo. I'll put the T over the Apple logo.
Nice. Well, but it would be... I mean, how neat would this be? And if this thing could... get that amount of battery life. I think for most people are smaller than me, so it would apply to them. And I try to think of that stuff. I mean, I'm not reviewing this for me. I mean, This will never be my main machine. I mean, I know that. But that doesn't mean that this thing doesn't have incredible value. And it doesn't mean that this thing couldn't be the PC for many, many people. And, you kind of evaluate it in that light. It's compared to the Surface Pro 3, it's a lot cheaper. But it's also in one of the more difficult parts of the market, I think. That kind of $600, $700 part of the market is it's kind of murky because, at the high end, it's very clear. You're spending $1,000 plus. You're getting a big Ultrabook, an X1 Carbon, perhaps one of those big Samsungs, a Surface Pro 3. You're going to get a high-end machine on the PC side. Obviously, on the Apple side, that's all Apples, whatever. But you're getting a high-end machine. The volume part of the PC market, though, is the low end of the market, and that's $300, $250 somewhere. It's down in there. It's the HP Stream 11 and 13, that kind of stuff. Asking, getting from the low end to the high end that's the, it's kind of the sweet spot, but it's the part where I don't think anyone does very well.
It's a mid-range device, but the components, I guess the overall build quality is not very mid-range.
No, I mean right. So
the components are mid-range, but the overall build quality of the device are not mid-range. Actually, surprisingly, that's exactly what the MacBook is. Mid-range components inside.
Yeah.
Mid-range specs, but phenomenal hardware.
Yes. I mean, this thing has a Retina kind of class screen like the MacBook does. This one has one full-sized USB 3 port. It has the USB micro port, which is the same kind of port you use to charge your phone or tablet. It's not Apple. So it works with any charger on Earth, which I think is a big deal. It works well. You can use it for data if you happen to have that kind of a cable. Most people don't, but maybe if you have one of these, maybe you will. So you actually technically have 2 USB ports on there. Mini display port out, very standard, great. Apple has one port that does everything. And so not only do you have to spend more money to get that thing, but you also have to spend more money to get dongles, and you'll be plugging and unplugging things all day long.
Yeah.
And I think the battery life on this will be at least as good as the Apple device, and we'll see. I don't see either one of them having a big advantage there. But this is no less portable, this little guy, than that MacBook Air. It just isn't. It's a pretty
portable.
Wonderful.
I mean, the only thing on the MacBook, you're getting a much better, keyboard, obviously, because it doesn't detach. But
maybe, but you know what? A lot of people have complained that the MacBook keyboard is a little weird, and so maybe.
See, that's my biggest complaint with a lot of computers. I for some reason have a very difficult time going from certain type of keyboards, and the ones that are like all attached, it's like a grid where everything is touching. I have a real difficult time typing on those.
Right.
I need a little bit of space in between the keys. So I'm interested to see what the long term, how it goes for you with this device.
And I'll keep using it. I mean, at some point, I guess I'll probably dual boot. I mean, I'll put Windows 10 on there as that matures. We'll see.
That's what I
want
to see.
Yeah, we want to see what that looks like.
Yeah.
I think this thing is solid. I mean, there's no initial thing where you pick it up or you use it and you say, oh, geez, here we go. This is the problem. It's fine. I mean, across the board so far, I would say it's fine.
Yeah.
And I think it's going to be great for a lot of people.
Very cool. I want to take some time to talk about the Apple Watch that's coming out on Friday, Paul, because this is a big deal. I had a couple questions I wanted to ask you, and I wanted to see what the audience thinks. But before we do that, let's talk about our Patreon campaign. Guys, we have a Patreon page. We like to keep this show limited with the ads, or ad-free some weeks. We do that by your support. When you guys tip us and support us, that allows us to do a lot more with this show. If you go to patreon.com/whatthetech, you could send your tips there. You could fund the show there. In return, we do a bonus show called What the Talk that follows this each and every week. Patreon.com/whatthetech is the website. Also, if you want to help us out, every time we need to do an upgrade here at the studio, we do it on Amazon, and we're able to do that by our Amazon page that we have set up. Every time you buy something, we get a tiny little credit from it, and it really goes a long way. And that site is gfq.co/Amazon. That's gfq.co/Amazon. Bookmark it. And whenever you buy something on Amazon, we get a little tiny credit from each sale. And that's it. That's all the ads for this week, guys. See you all next week. No. Let's talk about the Apple Watch. It's coming out Friday.
Yep.
You know what's interesting? I talked to initially this is really turning into like an iPad thing. Initially, a lot of people said this is stupid, and now the people that said that's stupid. Like, I'll give an example. People that have an iPhone. Those people that said this is stupid and I don't want it. Now it's getting closer, and they're saying, "Well, I kind of would want this. I kind of would want this."
I don't. So I mean, I don't. I can't imagine. I personally ever said it was stupid. In typical, well, no, it's not typical. I mean, $350 to start is a little tough. It's Apple, you know. One of the things that really excites me about this watch is the proactive health related stuff. You know, get up, it's been an hour. It's going to do that stuff. I like that. I think the problem with it is that it relies too much on the iPhone, and that subsequent generations of Apple Watch won't.
Yeah.
You know, just like the earliest versions of the iPod and then the iPhone relied on the PC to do sync. You know, this is a maturity issue. It's something that will happen over time. I think there's no doubt that this will be the best-selling wearable on Earth immediately.
Oh, 100%. I mean, there's no question about it, because if 5% of iPhone users buy this, it's going to be a success. 10%, it's going to be a blockbuster. I mean, it's going to be successful, but it's interesting people's perception of this a couple months ago to now, because now it's getting closer and you feel like you're going to miss out on something. $350, by the time you leave there, you get the bigger one. It's going to be $500 you're going to pay for this device. Obviously, I'm not going to get it because I don't have an iPhone as my everyday phone. I'm not, which that's a whole different controversy, Paul. I don't know if you heard that. How dare I? How dare I not use an iPhone as my phone every day?
We're all ashamed.
But the positive thing here is this going to impact that entire market? How it did for tablets. You know, when the iPad came out, what was it really competing with? It was competing with convertible laptops. That was a tablet. This concept of this iPad-style tablet really wasn't being done right. So will this change the industry, and will this change how other, I guess, smartwatch manufacturers are making this and understanding what the people want? I don't know.
I remember, you know, it's funny you brought up the iPad. When Apple first launched the original iPad, they announced it in January, and then they didn't start shipping it until like April.
April, yeah.
And I remember thinking, and probably writing at the time, that this was a huge mistake. That whenever Apple announces anything, people get all excited, and they would throw thousands of dollars at Apple right at that second if they could. But you had to wait a while to pre-order it, I think. I don't remember exactly how it worked, but you couldn't get it until April, basically. And then only in certain places. It was U.S. only probably at first, or limited markets, whatever it was. And I thought, man, they're really going to screw this one up. And that didn't happen. And it's interesting, I guess what you're saying now is by pre-ordering, or not pre-order starts Friday, but by pre-announcing this thing well in advance, back in October, right? They first announced it. They had another special event last month. And now this week we're going to be able to pre-order it, and then later this month we're going to be able to get it. And it's going to be this kind of world. They're not going to have lines. I mean, they're doing a really good job of managing what could have been a disaster. Because I also think with this one, the pre-announcing kind of takes the wind out of the sails. Because the longer between the time someone knows about something and then they have time to let reality set in and, you know, realize they don't really need this thing, that can be really bad for sales. But they've done a great job of managing it. You know, it's a special thing. You can't just, anyone could go stand in line overnight like an idiot to buy some product that will, you know, manufactured in the millions. But they're not going to allow that. And that's fascinating to me. And I think that was specifically done to drum up demand.
Yeah, and I think it
works.
I don't know how I should feel about this. Like, if I were to say it right now, I'd say, well, this is dumb. I don't need a smartwatch.
Right.
And I don't see why anybody would. But that's not the right answer. Because this thing is going to be successful and it's going to evolve. Right now, I don't think this is a great device. I don't find anything appealing about this device right now at this very moment. 2 years from now, when the third generation comes out or the second generation comes out, it's going to be a totally different story when it's giving you, your oxygen levels and it's giving you your hydration levels.
Oh, you mean like different sensors
and it's putting, it's
GPS.
That's where this device is going to do well. When Tim Cook comes out and says our competitor has 8 sensors, we have 38 sensors. We have 32
I was going to say
sensors.
he'll never say that unless they have more.
Yeah.
So we'll see. The ability, for example, onboard GPS would be part of what's necessary for you to be able to leave your phone at home. People who want to use this thing for athletic endeavors and so forth, they're going to want to be as toggle free as they can be with a phone, kind of thing. So I think it gets there. I think you're right that some of that's going to require, a new hardware platform.
Yeah, but here's the thing: by the time that comes out, Hellcat brings in an interesting point. But by the time that Apple incorporates these features, there's going to be far cheaper bands, far cheaper fitness bands that are going to be providing you with the same exact sensors, with the same exact feedback that you don't need to buy, a $350 or $500 watch for. So they have to. I'm just thinking, what features is this offering me that I don't get with my phone, and that. Or it's an inconvenience to use my phone with, it's hard for me to envision what this thing is going to give me and how convenient is it going to make my life.
See, I can already tell you the problem is you're thinking with your head.
Okay.
This isn't a logical decision. This is it's a jewelry product. It's about people seeing that you own it. It's about, kind of extravagant consumption in some cases for the really expensive ones. I mean, it's a status symbol, like even if, like, let's say you had millions of dollars and you could buy anything you wanted, well, why would you buy a Maserati or a Jaguar instead of a car like a Mercedes or a BMW, like a really high-end, awesome Mercedes or BMW?
Because you can't.
And those cars would be way more reliable and, would in fact be awesome. Mostly it's because people want something that no one else has. They want that status symbol thing. They're trying to send a little message like, I'm something special here. And, Apple has always kind of been on that, trajectory. They've always attracted that kind of person. And this thing's going to set it over the top because just the way they're selling it, the type of product that it is, it's a completely different thing. This is not a you need something to make phone calls and run apps and get the weather, and it's not about that. It's a status symbol. I bet most people don't even use it. They'll look at.
At this moment it is.
Watch.
Yeah, at this moment it is. And I know a lot of people that have gotten excited about this, and I can't think of one feature that it has that I would get really excited for. And I'm not saying that to be an Apple hater or my dislike for Apple, because I don't. I'm actually an Apple user. I have a MacBook and I have an iPad, and that's what I use. I just personally don't see.
It's not the Apple thing. That's not really the point. Like, I wear a Microsoft band, right? And I had a Fitbit before that, and I had 2 Nike Fuel bands before that. And I've tried the Galaxy Gear and whatever. There's all kinds of little kind of fitness watch type things. Right now, the device I'm using will monitor my heart rate on an ongoing basis. It monitors my steps. It monitors a bunch of things. But it doesn't really prompt me. I can go back and look, and I do this sometimes. I'll run the app, like, how did I do this week? How many times did I exercise? Did I beat any of my best times or best whatevers, whatever. There's not any proactive stuff going on. If all the Apple Watch does is sit on your wrist and monitor your health and also say, Bert, hey, by the way, buddy, time to get going. And that has nothing to do with this other stuff it does. It has nothing to do with music, with email and text messages and whatever other apps you might have on it. But just from a kind of health fitness standpoint, if it does do that, that alone is already better than what I'm using.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right.
That alone. So
the health stuff interests me.
Yeah, I think that's.
I don't think it's there yet. Like, sure, fine. I could get any application could tell me how many steps I took.
Yes.
Hundreds of
right, wrong, or indifferent. There'll be
hundreds of applications and bands could tell me how many calories I burned. They're never really accurate, but okay, fine. It's close. But I want more than just a caloric intake and how many steps I've burned. how many steps I've taken, how many calories I burned. I want more than that. And
I think
we're gonna get
it
there.
is meeting that, right? And of course, you could look at the Apple Watch, the entire list of stuff it does, and you can kind of make little comparisons. I mean, is it helpful when your watch is in your pocket to know that you got an email or a text? Some people, yes. Is it helpful to know you get a phone call? Yeah, some people. Do you check the weather? Do you want to know the box score of a baseball game? Do you want to whatever? I mean, for some people, they're going to be very involved with that. Is it better to be sitting there doing this thing than doing this thing with your little screen? I don't know. I mean, it's kind of more of the same, and for some people, it is going to be more of the same. But I just know for myself, the only reason I wear this thing is because I want to be healthier than I am, and I would really like for this thing to help me actually do that. Because right now, all it's doing is recording, and I can look back at a week and say, "Wow, I didn't really walk as much as I should have. I didn't really exercise as much as I should have." It'd be nice if this week you kind of kicked me in the ass a little bit about that. And it really just doesn't do that. And again, like I said, if the Apple Watch does do that, it appears that it does. I mean, that alone will be worth.
Yeah, I'm curious. Yeah, I'm curious to see how this does at the end of the month when, everybody's getting it and you're going to have that first group of people walking around with this thing. And what do they think after, 6 months of using it?
Yeah.
Because I know
if they're like typical Apple users, they'll love it. So, they'll never criticize it.
Talking about Friday, Paul. I'm not ordering an iWatch, but I am getting an Apple Watch, but I am getting a Samsung Galaxy S6. I ordered the S6 to replace my LG
I thought you already
G2.
had it. Oh no,
no. It's coming out on Friday. It's not released yet. I pre-ordered last week, and it was so. I put it up on Facebook. I'm like, should I have gotten this or the Edge? And it was like, you should have gotten an iPhone. You should have gotten an iPhone. Why? Well, because it's better. But I don't want.
I like when you ask these specific questions. Should I get a Galaxy S6 or a Galaxy S6 Edge? And the response is, you should have gotten an iPhone.
You should have gotten an iPhone.
Like apparently you didn't read the question.
But it was unanimously like, you should have gotten an iPhone. And I go, well, I don't want an iPhone. And it's like, why? Why don't you want an iPhone? Well, I don't want an iPhone. I just don't want an iPhone. It was so absurd to people. So I'm excited to actually get it because it's going to be, it's a flagship phone and it's probably the best Android phone out there right now that's going to be out. But the camera is what interests me in this because CNET did a really detailed comparison between the M9 and the S6. I'm sorry, not the S6, the iPhone 6 Plus.
Yep.
And it was really, in some instances, it was better than the iPhone. So I'm curious to see how it actually performs in, my real world usage of this thing. But everybody says that it's, like with the Windows phones, you hit it and it's able to take a photo instantly and you don't have to think twice about what the outcome is going to be. I can't do that with any other Android phone that I have.
Right.
And another issue that I noticed, the one thing that I noticed that I didn't like is that it'll overexpose low light situations to the point that it distorts the image. I don't understand why Android does that. I cannot, almost every Android phone that I've ever used to take a photo with will do that. This has been a
problem with a few of the phones I've had as well.
Android or with Windows Phone as well?
This is Windows Phone, but the more recent ones, and it's probably related to software updates and camera updates and things like that. It's gotten better at that, but there was a spat of time there where the Lumia, whatever it was at the time, Nokia camera software, just, you take a picture and for 1 second it would look perfect and it would process it and then it would just be it would just be whited out. And they've kind of fixed it.
See, with all the Android phones that I've had over the last, couple of years, almost every single one of them, it'll be a perfect shot, it'll look great, and then it'll focus in, like you said, and it'll overexpose the thing, and I can't ever get it back to where it's supposed to be.
I mean, there are manual settings, right? Yeah. You could probably just override the auto stuff. No, ideally, what you want to just take a picture and have it just work.
I just want a picture. Yeah. I just want to take a picture. So
you don't want to be Ansel Adams. You don't want to have to set a box up with a tripod and
that's what's going to happen. Actually,
throw the black cape over.
So I ordered it. Let's see what happens. I'm hopeful that it will be a very good phone and I'll be very happy. But knowing my luck with phones, I should have probably bought an iPhone.
Well, yeah.
I should have gotten an iPhone. Before we
point you at a Windows phone that made sense, but there isn't one. So,
and that's the other thing. People saying, why aren't you getting a Lumia? Well, which Lumia should I get? There's no new Lumias that I should get because I know as soon as I get it within, 6 months,
sure,
they're going to release something new and I'm going to kick myself in the ass for not getting it. Right. So I'm waiting. I still have my AT&T plan. Then my next phone after this one will be a Windows phone. It'll probably be a Lumia. I just need to wait until it comes out.
Right.
And we will all be happy. The viewers will be happy. Paul will be happy.
Well, the iPhone people won't be happy.
No, but I have an iPhone. I have a 5S that I use at home for iMessage.
2 generations out of whack.
I know. Yeah, I suck regardless.
It's just sad. That's all.
I got a lot of questions about the next version of Windows, Paul, already.
Okay. Yeah.
Codename came out. Mm-hmm. And that's about it, right?
So it's not the next version of Windows.
It is not the next version.
These are updates to Windows 10.
Next major update.
This is in many ways not news. I mean, beyond the name itself, which has been verified, it's true. This is a new naming scheme. We're all a little confused by it. Although there's been a lot of recent Microsoft and especially Windows Team related codenames that have to do with the video games. You see like Project Spartan, for example, obviously comes from the Halo world. Thresholds from the Halo world. Redstone is from Minecraft, which Microsoft owns now too. So there's some, maybe, Windows 10 initial gen is all Halo related codenames. Gen 2 is maybe going to be Minecraft.
Oh, Minecraft, yeah.
Let's see.
So this is a major release that we're talking about, major update.
I don't know anything about it personally. Yeah. I mean, I talked to Brad, who's the guy that broke the story. I talked to Mary Jo about this today as well. And my understanding was that, there's no Windows 10.5. There's no Windows 11. I mean, if you think about the way Mac OS 10 was, it's Mac OS 10, and then
that's
iterate.
Updates,
some of them are big and some of them are small. I think the Windows 10 name is going to be around for a while. I don't know if it's going to be like Mac OS 10 exactly, but I expect it to stick around. They're updating it a little bit more like they do with the cloud products. So, it's not exactly quarterly, but we're going to see at least 2 of the updates next year. So, Windows 10 ships in like September-ish, and then 2 big updates or whatever they are next year. I don't, it's so early. I don't even want to think about the like.
I know it's crazy that it's coming out, but I mean, I guess it all depends on the success of Windows 10 and the reception that it gets from the bloggers and the journalists and the end users, really. But this is going to be a long-term operating. We're not going to see a new Windows 11 or 12 or 13, whatever they're going to do next year, or the following year. So it's going to stick to this, and they're just going to do these overall updates once or twice a year.
Well, I think Windows 8.1 had 2 updates, one of which was major, Update 1, Update 2. They're like that, Okay. So did those things have names at one point? Actually, no. In that case, I don't think so. But
was that?
Does it matter? No.
But was that plan? I from what I remember, that was kind of their plan with Windows 8, where they would have Windows 8 would be here, and then they would have 8.1 and 8.2, and those would be the major updates instead of a new version.
But that was the original idea, and then 8.1, the distribution of that was so terrible they kind of had to change plans, and so
I'll never forget. We had that meet and greet for Windows 8 when it launched.
Yep.
And it was this giant Windows 8 billboard, this computerized billboard, right by us, right by Penn Station.
Yep.
And the thing was destroyed. Like, it was just like static, and it was just like zooming in and out. And I go, I hope this isn't like a sign of things to come for this.
Yeah. Yep.
Because I was walking with one of the people, one of my friends, her company was in charge of that ad program for them. They spent, what is it, like $1 billion in marketing. They were one of the major companies that were in charge of doing it. She goes, oh, look, that's one of our billboards there that we put up. And I'm looking and I go, yeah, that's not a good sign.
Windows, I can't, in Microsoft history, there have been some interesting times. Obviously, a lot of people like to focus on the early days of the company, the creation of MS-DOS, Windows, and how it kind of took off and took over. Antitrust was a big era. But I'm a lot more interested in the more recent stuff. And I think there's some interesting stuff to be told around Longhorn and the collapse around that. And then more recently, Windows 8, which is just the stories that must be there and the some that I know about. Microsoft knew that Windows 8 was going to be a turd, and they had to release it. They couldn't not release it, right? I mean, they were just going down this path. and it's like the train left the station, and everyone knew it was just going to be a disaster. And they
But there was nothing they could have done at that point.
It's absolutely. Can you imagine if they at some last minute said, "We're putting a halt to this"? I mean, imagine.
Yeah, but at what point did they realize it was a turd?
Was.
Like, at what point through the development of this? It's not like one day they woke up and said, "Wow, this is this is the worst."
I don't know. See, this is the story I'd have to talk to people about to get the exact details. But I mean, having talked to people, I mean, at some point between the beginning of the project and the actual release and the whole Windows RT thing and Surface, and there was Steve Ballmer picked Steven Sinofsky over a couple of other people who were very qualified to run Windows, and he went off in this direction after Windows 7, and he was making a power play to be the next CEO, and there was all this kind of internal politics and all this kind of stuff, a lot of bridge burning and people who didn't like him and people who really did like him because they owed their career to him, and it just happened.
Okay, I'm gonna throw something out there.
Yeah.
I mean, and by all accounts, a lot of people said they knew this was going to be a disaster. If they left the start menu in,
right,
would that have fixed some of this? I think it would have for a lot of people.
Yes, I think, especially so if you accept, you could do this like rewriting of history with Windows. You could,
which I love that stuff, by the way. I love to go back and revisit and be like,
well, in other words, like imagine like the same team was still in place. Like imagine they did what you just said. They said they made it possible to go back to the old start menu. Like imagine they just did that. That would be the only concession that they made, and it wasn't quite the disaster that it's turned out to be. And then they evolve Windows 8 over time. They do 8.1, they do 8.2, right? They do this thing. It's sort of like Windows 10 is today, but maybe not quite as radical on the PC side. And they could make this claim kind of retroactively that we always planned to get to this point. Windows 8 was just the first step.
It's first step, yeah.
But the problem is the way that they did it, they can't even pretend that was the case because it was so unilateral,
Yeah.
It was the first version of Windows to not offer a way to go back to the old way of doing things, which is critical for your most important customers, businesses, because they don't want to retrain their users on how to do anything. These are companies, and companies that they don't upgrade right away anyway, but whenever they get to that version of Windows, a lot of times, because they're in a mixed environment, different versions of Windows, they want it to look as much like what everyone else is using as possible. They don't want to train people. They don't want to spend the money on that. And Windows 8 was a one-way street. And that was fundamentally it says a lot about Windows 8 that mistake is in many ways more insane than bolting a mobile operating system onto a desktop operating system. I mean, that's
the mistake of what? Not keeping,
not allowing people to go back.
Yeah,
and by people I really mean businesses. I mean, some people would have wanted that too, but that's not important. That's not as important. It's really about the businesses.
I mean, and at the end of the day, what did they do? They ended up giving in. They essentially gave everything back.
Well, they had to. I mean, and that's the thing. Like,
but I mean, that's 2 years.
People who complain now, like, oh, they went too far and they're doing this, and it's like you don't understand. The very fact that they're doing this explains to you how bad it was. There's no.
I mean,
Windows 8 is going to be the release that never happened. We're just all going to pretend that never happened.
It's fascinating because in 2 years, we're approaching the release of Windows 10. So in 2 years, this is a very different company. Very, very different company. As far as their business approach goes.
This fall, it will actually be 3 years, right?
3 years, yeah.
In many ways, I mean, Microsoft historically has often taken 3 years to release a new version of Windows.
And they did.
They did Windows 7 in 3 years, and that shouldn't have taken so long. They completely screwed up Windows in 3 years with Windows 8, and now they're going to get it right, hopefully, with the Windows 10 in 3 years as well. Yeah. So, what a ride!
Yeah, I mean,
it is a roller coaster.
It's a little thing that really, the number one complaint I got from people. Obviously, I've gotten so much like the charms bar was convoluted, and they didn't understand why you need the new UI and all that stuff. But if the start menu,
listen, it's designed by mistake, or UI by mistake. There would be people who, first of all, there's no indication that these things even exist. You're kind of looking at the screen, you don't have no idea what's going on. You launch into something, you don't know how you did it, and now you're stuck. There's no indication of how you get back.
How do you get back?
Application
How do you
full
leave?
Screen. You don't even understand it. You touch the screen or do something with your mouse, and a UI appears briefly on either side of the thing, and you don't know what you did to cause it. You don't know what it was. You know,
We need Clippy back.
It is the dumbest design
Yeah.
in the history of personal computers in many ways. I mean, given all of the UI work that went into Windows before this happened, I mean, just the sheer hubris of it. I mean, late in the development game, one of the things I remember was a big debate over whether there should be some kind of training video or something in the UI that would teach you how to use this stuff. Now, that, by the way, appeared in Windows 8.1. Not the video, but the little training boxes.
Little training box, yeah.
By the way, did you know you could do,
I think Clippy should have come back and just given us tips.
Sure, pop up. Yeah,
pop
exactly.
Up. That's it.
Their testing, their feedback, their telemetry, however you want to say it, overwhelmingly showed that they needed to have some form of user education in the box, that no one would ever find this stuff except by mistake. And like I said, would often not realize what they had done to trigger that UI. And so they decided to do nothing. They literally knew
Such a bad thing.
that it was not going to work, and they did nothing about it.
And they just said, you know, well, let's start working on what's next, and we'll fix it later.
I don't know
down the
what
line.
they said. I mean, I can tell you, because this is widely reported, I think at the time, they tested things. There was a version of Setup one time that had little animations that would show you how to do stuff. Actually, I do remember, it's funny now I'm remembering this. I remember I showed this to my wife, and she thought she was supposed to do what it was doing. Like, in other words, the animation would keep repeating. And so she thought she was going to use it, and she thought
she was doing it wrong.
She had to follow along with it. Yeah. The reason it keeps doing it is because I haven't done it right. And so she's trying to follow the mouse in the animation, but it's really what it's doing is just playing on a loop, you know.
Oh, that's really funny. It's terrible. Well, the hope is they got it right this time. So we could wish for, Paul.
They got the desktop part of it right. I mean, the question's going to be, and it looks like I think the phone will work out. I think by the phone comes, you know, obviously the stuff we've seen so far has been rough.
I mean, I'm curious more about the phone than I am about desktop at this point, because desktop, we know what we're going to get. I mean, it's almost everything that we wanted. They fixed the problems with desktop, but what about the phone?
So
because this is,
I think phone will be fine. I think the big problem is going to be in between those two things.
Smaller tablets.
A lot of people don't like how Windows 10 works on a tablet. And, you know, those Edge UIs that they had in Windows 8, which actually made a lot of sense with your hands, they're not liking how they work as much. I actually think some of that stuff is fine. I think we haven't seen everything. I also think things don't quite work the way they're supposed to. The true full screen mode is gone. That will come.
Yeah.
That's the big gray area for me. I mean, they're going to have trouble winning over this kind of small but vocal crowd of people who are like, Windows 8 was fine, you know. So you got those guys you got to deal with as well. And
it's a small group, though.
It is, but some of their complaints are valid. I mean, it's certainly valid to say that, one of the things Windows 8 made some sense for tablets. The problem was that Windows just didn't make sense for tablets.
Yeah.
No one bought these things anyway.
Yeah.
But there's some stuff, that was, there were some things that were quick to get to in Windows 8 that are not quick to get to in Windows 10. And so we'll have to see how they handled that. Interesting
stuff. All right, Paul, we're at the end of our show. Guys, if you're watching live, stay tuned. We're going to do our Throwback Tuesday on the bonus show that we're going to record live right after this. All thanks Paul Thurrott. Go to Thurrott.com. Check him out there. He also does another podcast, phenomenal podcast, Windows Weekly, on the Twit Network every Wednesday, 2 p.m. East on twit.tv. Anything coming up, Paul? Any appearances? Are you showing up at a gas station, at a meet and greet?
So we're getting to the 2-3 week point where we're going to be heading to San Francisco for Build at the end of the month, and that's going to be kind of cool. And then the week after that, I'll be in Chicago for Ignite, which is the former Tech Ed, and that'll be kind of cool.
And people could actually go watch you do Windows Weekly.
Yeah, the week of Build, which is the very last week of the month. It's actually May 1st when we do that. We're going to be up in Petaluma on that Friday at 2 p.m. to do Windows Weekly. The night before that, we're going to have a meetup in in San Francisco. And I should probably know this off the top of my head, but it is.
There's a good chance I may be in Los Angeles also that week.
There's a place called the Irish Bank. It's on 10 Mark Lane in San Francisco. We're going to, Mary Jo and I and Chris Woodrow are going to have a meetup there. Anyone can come, so that'll be cool from 5:30 to 8:30 ish.
Very cool, very cool. And you have it all posted on your website if people want,
Yeah, I actually just put an article up that has that stuff in it. I'm going to do it. I'll do a post about each of these things as we get closer, so people can find them.
Yeah. All right, guys. Hey, guys, also subscribe to us. We're everywhere podcasts are available. We have an SD feed, an HD feed, an audio feed. Subscribe to the podcast. Helps us out. And that's it. You can follow me on Twitter at Andrew Zerny. You can follow Paul at The Rod. And that's it for this week, guys. See you all next week. Bye-bye for now.